Hello and welcome back to our co-creation today. We have a special guest. I'd like to welcome Robin Pollak to my channel as a co-share today in our creation. Robin and I have known each other probably 10 years. We were just trying to figure that out. And it was a spontaneous meeting orchestrated by the universe. You'll hear a little bit more about that later. But Robin and I have been working together for almost 10 years now. And I'm really excited to bring her to the channel because I have seen her grow into herself in ways that people desire for themselves, but don't put the effort forth to achieve. And so it's really magical to witness a transformation such as this, because not only is Robin an intuitive coach, but she also has just accepted and embraced the terminology of energetic navigator. And what makes this really unique is that she has taken all of her gifts and abilities that she's developed over the years through the work that she's done with herself, working with her higher self in many different capacities, and has written a book, which is now translated into German as well. Do I understand? Yeah. So welcome, Robin. So
Hi.
happy. Yeah. So tell us what the term energetic navigator means, because I know everybody understands what it means to be an intuitive coach, right? We're using our intuition for the purposes of coaching somebody. But what is the term energetic navigator and how did that come about?
I think, well, first of all, somebody else called me that. And then
Okay.
I had to stop and actually, it was my publisher who called me that.
Okay.
And then I started to think about it and I thought, huh, okay. Like I could honestly understand that because I asked her to explain it to me. And what she said was that she doesn't view me as a coach, that she really views me as this navigator for people really in any space, like in any kind of conversation, that I can help navigate their path energetically because I do it with energy. I do it on the phone, I do it in person, I do it, if you're talking to me and it's about somebody else, I can do it. If you're intuitive, you understand that we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about energy, right? So when she started saying navigator, I was like, I'm an energetic navigator because that's what I'm navigating. I'm navigating the energy that's
Mm-hmm.
all around us. And I felt like, oh, like if that makes it more palatable for people, that they understand that, I'm much more comfortable saying that than I am saying psychic. Because
Mm-hmm.
when I say psychic, then people have all these interpretations of what that means. And everybody's always asking if they see their grandmother over my shoulder and da 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 da. And so when I say energetic navigator, they get curious about like, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
They ask me. And so I tell them, and then they're like, oh, and then they're
Mm-hmm.
interested. So I
Right.
feel like it spurs on conversation and
Mm-hmm.
it steers them more in the direction of really what intuition is about,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to what they think it's about.
Right.
It's always, if you're intuitive, it's always like this tricky conversation with people who don't understand to
Mm-hmm.
explain what it actually is or isn't.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, everybody is intuitive and some are psychic. And energy is always in motion, right?
Yeah.
And to be a good psychic, you have to be good at reading timelines, and there's a lot into that. So I like the term energetic navigator. It just means that you're really in tune with what is within the flow of the energies for that particular person, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we're all in a collective, but then we're all in our own individual state of being. So,
Right. Right. And the other thing also is that many of us who are intuitive are psychic, you
mhm,
know?
mhm,
But I think when you just use that term, people who don't understand it interpret it and have it mean whatever they think that it means.
Yeah.
And most of them think what it means based on the movie Ghost,
Yeah.
or based on somebody that they saw reading tarot with a ball in some place, or they saw it in a picture.
Yeah.
And for me, that's not really what it defines for me about who I am and what my life is. So I don't know. I feel like it sort of opens the door for other conversations and other thinking.
Yeah, and I've never heard anybody else use that term, so it's very unique unto you, right? Very unique.
Yeah.
So how did you come into your intuition? How long ago was that? And what kind of prompted it? What led you onto your path?
I believe, well, now I can say it because I didn't understand it then. But now looking back, I can say that I probably was always intuitive, but I just didn't know what it was. I didn't have anybody to go to. I didn't have anybody to ask. And I was always intrigued by it. I always wanted to go get a reading, and I knew right away when it was right or when it was wrong, when they were fooling me or where they were for real. I always had this sense of spirits being with me, information coming to me, and I never really understood it. And then when I was a speech pathologist, I assumed that the way I was performing as a speech pathologist was based on my education, until I started speaking to other speech therapists, and that's not what they were doing. And then I was like, okay, like I guess I'm doing something else. And I thought about it, but I didn't really do anything about it. And then menopause happened, perimenopause happened, and I knew it was more than that. It was just all these things were happening, and I was getting like hot flashes, but it didn't even make any sense that I was getting hot flashes. None of it made any sense to me. And I started to go into the coaching realm, and I thought I just needed to wind down a little. I needed to take care of myself a little bit more. But what ended up happening was I started realizing that I had other information. The other information was guiding my life, but I didn't know how to tap into it. It would just happen to me. I would get it and it would come on, and I would get the information, and I never knew how to turn it off, to the point that I was avoiding it. I would like sometimes be afraid to go to sleep at night because I couldn't get the information to stop. And then I met you. And the day that I met you, which is in my book, I was feeling all the energy, and I knew it was a big day. I knew it was going to be a big day, but I was scared shitless, to be honest. I didn't know what was coming. And I go into the bathroom to get ready to go, and I was running late, and I get information again. You're going to meet somebody. She's going to have white hair, and she's going to have glitter all over her body. She's your guide. She's your person. And I'm washing my hands, and I'm thinking, okay, anything you said, I don't know. And I go into this room, and when I got there, everybody was in this deep meditation, and it was pitch black. So I just picked a seat, a random seat, literally a random seat in the pitch black. And when the lights came on and I stood up, you were there. And I didn't even see the glitter, didn't put the white hair together. I didn't understand any of it. And you just looked at me and you said to me, there's somebody behind you who wants to speak to you. And he knew it was my stepmother. I just knew it was.
Yeah.
So you gave me the message for her that she was giving. And right away, I knew you were the real deal. And I booked a session with you. And I waited and waited and waited. And then I got there, and there you were under this light. And there it was, all of the glitter all over your body, the white hair that glowed. You had this iridescence all around you that I could see. It was like a rainbow aura all around you. And I knew you were my person. And then you sat there and you looked at me and you said to me, I can't even do these cards, Robin. They are screaming at me. And this is what I need to tell you. And you just told me like 5 things. And right away, everything shifted.
Mm-hmm.
You just were like, yes, you're feeling warm. You can tell him to stop, do this, do this, do this, do that. And I just was like, oh my God. Like all of those things that I had been working with, struggling with,
Mm-hmm.
and you just nailed it all. That was it. I was
Yeah.
hooked. And that was it. And I
Yeah.
was seeing you. I started making sessions appointments with you weekly.
Yeah.
However, I have to say, which is also in the book, that first one, I walked out on
Mm-hmm.
because you were so real with me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what to do with it. I
Yeah.
didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
I walked out and I stood in the bathroom, your pink bathroom in that office.
Uh-huh.
That was, and I stood there pacing back and forth, going, what is this?
Yeah.
And then I came back and I finally said, okay, so just tell me.
Mhm.
And we've been working together ever since.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, you know what's funny about that day though is and I apologize because the landscapers just showed up for the people across the
I
street.
can't hear it.
You hear that in the background. I apologize. But what was funny about that day is, you know, I was in a rush to get out of the house because I was like running super high energy, and I picked up the wrong body butter bar that I had. You know, the glitter one was for like really like your décolleté, you know, and I just put it on as if I was like putting body butter all over my body. So unbeknownst to me, I had this very fine iridescent glitter, like literally all over my body except for my face. And it wasn't until you sat at my table for the reading and said to me, do you have you're glowing, you have like this iridescent glitter all over you. And I was like, what? And I remembered after the reading, at some point I was able to sneak away and go into the bathroom, and I looked at myself. I started cracking up because it hit me, and I realized why everybody that morning was looking at me like something out of like some, you know, mythical movie or something. But because I didn't even realize that, you know, I didn't see it on myself. But it was so funny because I remembered, yeah, I didn't even realize that I did that, but your guides let you know, like, if that's going to be the one, that's going to be the one. So yeah, that was how we met. And you're right, that first session was, but I think, you know, and I know that you do coaching sessions too, you know, and anybody that knows me that's worked with me knows that, you know, one is I have an extremely high rate of accuracy. So when I'm telling you or giving you information, it's not with the intention of, you know, blowing you out of the water or anything like that. It's because that is the highest level that of information coming through in order to help maximize whatever is needing to take place with you, right, in a shift or whatever. And so sometimes it's hard for people to be a receiver of that information. But I have to say, one of the things I'm most proud of you for, which is why I wanted to have you on and do this talk, is that you, every time we met and you were so diligent about doing your work, every single time we would meet for a session, you just took the information each time, and it was like you went home with, you know, with your gun loaded and ready to do the work and just jump in there and do what you had to do. And every time you showed up again, you were a new version of yourself, you know, with a greater understanding. So that's something that doesn't happen very often. Very few can actually put themselves on their path in that way and maximize their experience, their growth, their evolution on such a level that they can, you know, get to a place where you've gotten to. Because
Oh,
now you've written a book, and had you not been so dedicated to your process, I know this book would not have been born.
no, it's
Because,
true.
yeah, because believe me, I've been in this work for 20 years. And, you know, I have come across a lot of people that were like, oh, Maria, you're going to write a book, you're going to write a book. But that's a timeline, and that timeline, depending on where you are, is always in motion. It's always coming and going. It's like jumping into double Dutch jump rope, right? So, you know, to get to that level where you can now take everything that you have gained, all the insight, all the wisdom, all of the tools, your ability, you open to channeling. You were working with some of the galactic collectives, if I remember, the Lyran beings, and you were channeling them. They were assisting you and helping to move you forward. Now, it's a process of evolution. So talk a little bit about that and how that started to open up for you and the insight that you gained from that.
I think the reason why I called it trust your intuition was, to me, that was the biggest hurdle. Is this feeling that you're getting all this information and to really trust in it and trust the connection that you have to it, and to trust that it was offered to you. Because some of it, at the beginning, when I would get it, would scare the bejeebers out of me. Like I wasn't exactly sure what I was getting. I wasn't really, and most of it, so a lot of it came to me in my sleep.
Right.
A lot of it came to me when I was, I don't know, daydreaming.
In that lucid state, just falling asleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would find myself, I don't know, writing a report and crashing with my head literally on my desk, right where I am. And then like waking up with my head sideways on the desk going, what just happened? I just lost everything and then remembered information. But it got to the point where I could feel it coming. I could feel that information coming onto me, and I started recording it, or I started dictating it. And I started holding that information. You were the one who suggested that I do that, so that I could really go back and listen to it. I could go back and read it and understand it. And that changed so much for me, because so much information comes to me so quickly, lightning speed. And half the time when I'm channeling, I don't even know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now I'm at a place where I can feel that it's coming. And if I'm talking to another person about it, I'm like, oh, I'm getting information. And I'm getting information. Do you want it?
Yeah.
Do you want this information? And I haven't met a person yet who said to me, no.
Yeah. Sure.
Want it?
Yeah.
But if you ask me what I said after I channeled at the beginning, I couldn't tell you. Now I'm in a place where I can get the essence of what I'm saying, although I can't get the verbiage of what I'm saying. So writing it down and taping it really allowed me to really understand the messages that they were sharing with me. And I felt so lucky, really so lucky.
Yeah.
They were there for me and giving me this information, giving me this insight. And the more I asked, the more they gave.
Yeah. Yep.
And I felt like I just felt so incredibly connected to all of it. And the more connected I became, then other skills started coming on board. More and more skills kept on coming aboard, which you kept on telling me was going to happen. But until you experience them and they become so effortless and so easy that they don't actually feel like you've gained some new skill, unless if you get like a really big upgrade and you're off, then you know, oh yeah, there's a shift. But that and being a part of your membership circle really just allows me to anchor into what I know for sure, what I know about me, and just see things from a whole different perspective. You said to me once that when you know stuff, when you know things and you're at a higher level, a higher frequency, it's as though somebody gave you the entire chess match. And now you're watching the chess match unfold.
Mhm.
And lots of times I feel that way. I'm
Mhm.
watching it all just unfold, and it gives you this sense of understanding about like how things work and where you are in the world, and really compassion for people who aren't there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it can be really tricky when you're opening to your higher self in this capacity, right? And we're accessing our intel and communication from our future selves, which are our galactic aspects, and that, you know, maybe an ascended master aspect or an angelic aspect, right? Those are all our higher level aspects within ourselves. And it can be challenging and a little tricky, especially when we're new to it and we're maybe not understanding it so much, and then trying to um make sense of it for us. And the like, hey, why is this happening to me? And how did I get so blessed to excuse me, be able to achieve this, and then trying to understand it, like when we open to something like light language, and it's not in the spoken form, but maybe it's in tones and music, coming through. And then we want to question it because it's not like everybody else's light language. It's very unique, right? Or like one of our community members who's also been a student of mine, Yasmin, she speaks light language with her hands, right? And it's like, that's not something that's very common. So we want to judge ourselves as that as being wrong. So I think that is very, very powerful to have an awareness that there really is no right or wrong or good or bad. It's just what is. And if we can just embrace it and learn how to work with it, what tool could we use? And in your case, it was easy for you to do the recordings and process what was coming through, and then really sit in it and own the experience of it. That is so beneficial to be able to do that instead of being in fear of it or to it, and then not wanting to acknowledge it, because we can't open when we're in resistance to what is, right?
And for so many years, I think I was in fear of it,
Mhm.
and also feeling very isolated and alone, not sharing what I did, and actually even being condescending to myself when I would mention that I had these skills,
Yeah.
not talking about it in a favorable way. And I sort of felt, after doing this with you and knowing how many people out there that have these little pieces, and it occurred to me, and when I'm working with you, it was obviously apparent, because you make it so apparent, that this isn't like a club,
Mm-hmm.
that actually the answer is just in believing in yourself, that
Yeah.
the answer is in trusting yourself, and
Yeah.
that this momentum that I received, that I tuned into, is open to anybody who wants to tune into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you have to pay a fee or you have to do something special.
Right.
And it's funny, I talk to people about it, and I try and get very basic so that they really understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be condescending, and I don't want to be insulting. And I say, when you go pick ice cream in an ice cream store, and you just know you want vanilla, and everybody around you is getting Rocky Road, and so you think, no, I don't want to be the only one getting vanilla. So you
Mm-hmm.
get the Rocky Road, right? And you go out and everybody's eating the Rocky Road and they're loving it, and you aren't.
Mm-hmm.
You are not loving that Rocky Road. And you wind up throwing it out. And in your head, you're going, I wish I just got the vanilla.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's something in you that knows you want that vanilla.
Yeah.
And when you start questioning it, you start questioning yourself.
Yeah.
And then the experience isn't what you want it to be.
Right.
And we don't just do it with ice cream, we do it with relationships too. We do
Mm-hmm.
it with everything.
Every.
And so when you start to see it all over the place, you start to understand that if you start to listen really listen to what you believe, what you know, you might avoid some of those things. You actually might use your nuggets of wisdom. And the thing about it is that I've decided, or I believe, is that we all gain nuggets of wisdom in our life
Yeah.
because we live. And the
Yes.
thing about it is that life is a moving entity. It
Mm.
doesn't stand still.
Yes.
So when you're moving in your life, you're learning all these nuggets, and those nuggets act as wisdom. And when
Mhm.
you don't trust your own wisdom, you're not trusting who you actually are.
Totally. Totally. Because everybody is so unique in themselves, right? It's not a one stop, one size fits
Oh,
all. We are all, bio and genetically individuality different. We are just different in our component makeup. And when we trust that, we're not in resistance. We're trusting it, we're in the flow. So you've taken all of that wisdom and you've created Trust Your Intuition, right? Your book, which is really up and coming. It's a bestseller. And as I mentioned earlier, it's also in German now, and I'm sure it's going to be in a lot of other languages as well. So in trusting your intuition and trusting those urges and those pulls, you've written this beautiful book, which I have to say, by the way, everybody should pick up a copy of it and read it, because it is kind of like a story of your life in the sense of like little short memoirs. But what I love about it is you're giving uh, a situation that occurs in your life, and then you're giving a little bit of a nugget of wisdom that goes along with it, right? Received a channel message for it, an affirmation, and then an inspiration. Or sometimes you're writing about, something, and you'll write something to consider, right? So you're giving these little nuggets of wisdom at the end of it and sharing your insights and how you might have handled the situation, so that others can see that sometimes life throws us a curveball, and how we are moving through it depends on how we're choosing to navigate that curveball. So let's talk about Trust Your Intuition and how it came to be, because as I said before, um, I I have been one to want to write a book. I have had concepts for books, but it just never manifested into the actual physicality of it. I've sat to write it, and it just didn't come. It didn't feel natural, didn't feel organic. So tell us what that was like for you, and when you first realized, oh my gosh, I'm writing a book, and you started the actual process of writing.
so here's a little secret. The 44 titles, which are the 44 chapters in that book, came to me like this. I was having a cup of coffee in my house, and all of a sudden I could feel information coming. And I walked over to my computer, and this is ready, like I'm a little skilled already. So I know something's coming, I know information's coming, and I need to be in a place where I can transcribe it. Like I knew this. So I opened up a PowerPoint, because I know people are listening going, how'd you have time to do all of this? It's because I could feel it coming. So I opened up a PowerPoint document, and I got all this information. And each one of them is the title. Each title is another little snippet that came in. And I don't know, I sat there with my cup of coffee next to my computer writing this. And when I got to number 44, it was 3.5 hours later.
Mm.
My coffee was ice cold and had a film over it. You know how, like, when you ignore your coffee?
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I go, oh, I just, at the end of it, sorry, I go, oh my goodness.
It was like a download to
Yeah.
universe confirming.
Yes. And it really was. It was just this download of information. And I looked at it and I remember reading it. And at the time, I sent it to a friend of mine who was a writer.
Mhm.
And I said, I think I have a book. And
Mhm.
she sent me back this big smiley face. And she says, I think you have the beginning of a book.
Mhm.
Why don't you look at the chapters and see what you can do? And they were daunting, looking at 44 chapters.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I just randomly picked one and I started writing little things, little excerpts about it.
Mhm.
And I don't know. And I would just take another one. And then I would take another one. And then I would take another one. And I don't know. And then by the time I was done, and as I was writing, all of a sudden this idea came to me, spirit came to me, and I got an idea
Mhm.
that you should provide channeled information to support the information you're writing in each chapter.
Mhm.
You should write an inspiration, an affirmation, so that people could use it as a way to get deeper into that information if they're stuck in that space. You
Mhm.
should create oracle cards based on this information. You should create a coloring book so people could use color and paint to sort of
Mhm.
work out their feelings about all this information. All of this is going on in my head while I'm sitting there trying to write.
Yeah.
And right now I'm in the brink of actually my oracle cards coming out, the coloring book
Yes.
coming out.
Yes.
And it
And
was
that's,
just the way that I saw it.
yeah.
And it was hard for me to write a lot of that information. At the beginning of the book, I sort of make a disclaimer to my family because they would remember it differently than I would remember it.
Mhm.
And I sort of just said that you'll remember it differently than me, but
Mm.
this is the way I remember it.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
I didn't really, it was my version, my book. I
Yeah.
was talking about it,
Yeah.
and they might have different interpretations about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And the intention wasn't to hurt anybody. It was really my way of working through things.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of things that I was working through.
Mhm.
And I found it cathartic. And then the other thing that I found was that my conversations with my guides became so effortless that when I was stuck, I would go outside and put my feet in the grass and I would just ask them, can you show me where to go next? And sometimes they would say to me, you should go nowhere right now.
Mm.
Just stay right here.
Yeah. Yeah. That, and that's the hardest thing to do, right? Is to just not be in resistance to what is, take that information in and be okay with it, because we need to just take a moment and just be,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
because
there would
we're
be
in
weeks,
transition. Yeah.
there would be weeks where I wasn't writing.
Yeah.
And I would feel like, oh God, like what happened? Like, did I
Yeah.
lose it? And then I would get it again and it would come
Yeah.
back again. So I taught me something. I as you can well imagine, because of the fact that I'm intuitive, and
Mhm.
if you're intuitive, you understand this.
Mhm.
If you aren't in the flow, it just isn't gonna happen.
Not gonna happen. And sometimes, like, it's like I said, it's a timeline too, right? So those moments where you had to blip out and yet you had to reconnect because maybe you finished or completed what you were meant to complete in that timeline, and now you were waiting for your frequency to connect with the next highest frequency that was being offered on a planetary level so that you could connect to the next piece of the puzzle with your book. And that's how it works. And people fail to realize that. I think writing a book is definitely no small feat by any means. And what I think is important to have an understanding of is that it's an offering um to those who read it, to understand that we're all going through very similar situations in our lives, right? And it's how we're dealing with it and how we can navigate our way through that makes the difference. that's what's important, right? Because we're not going to read this book and it's not going to be like a how-to with how-to exercises. And I really like that about this book, because how one person resolves something on an intuitive level or on a spiritual level might be vastly different from how somebody else is going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like reading, right? Or having intuition. We
Yeah.
all take in information different. We all process our intuitive or psychic information in a different way. So if I'm teaching you my way, that might not work for you because you and I are two different people. And I kind of like that that's what you did with this book, where it's subject to the person taking it in and utilizing the experience that you've shared with the conclusions, the affirmation, and all of that at the end of it, so that they could see, okay, for situations like this in my life, I can use this affirmation that says, I allow myself to be open to receiving all good that is destined for me, right? As opposed to being in resistance because something went wrong in my life.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny because on your recommendation, actually, I am working now with people who want to write.
Mhm.
And what I call it is writing is a team sport.
Mhm.
And a secret between me and everybody who's listening here, I don't just mean that it's a team sport because you're talking to me. I mean, because it's a team sport because we're talking to the universe.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So when
Yes.
I say writing
Yes.
is a team sport, it's because we
Yes.
are including all of that information that we are
Absolutely.
getting, that we
Absolutely.
are receiving and holding on to, that allows us to be transcendent in how we speak and what we talk about and what we believe and what we know.
Yeah.
And when you sort of accept that and hold it to the highest esteem, you respect the fact that that relationship is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it's interesting because people will come to me and ask me when I do book signings about God, and they'll ask me like religious questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say to them, I'm not really talking about divinity. I
Mm-hmm.
do not want you to think that that's who you think I am. I am not divinity. I am a human. That's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want anybody to ever think that that's what I'm trying to say, or that's what I mean, or that's what I think, or because to me they're separate. And I feel like it's not, I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about my relationship with the universe and the information that the universe gives to me.
Yeah, and you're bridging that gap with your higher self and the divine within you.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's a very fine line too, right?
Yeah.
Because we want to acknowledge our human existence. It's what we're here for. We're here to evolve
Yeah.
ourselves far and
Right.
beyond. So, so tell us what's next for you. I know you have your oracle cards coming out and you have your coloring book coming out, right? When
Yes.
can we expect those to be
They
ready?
should be coming out before Christmas.
Okay.
And I'm going to be posting on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and all of that when they do come out. And I'll have like links for people if they want to get on a mailing list. But most of all of my things are sold on Amazon, and I'm going to have a space where you can just click on it from
Mm-hmm.
my thing. I don't know how to do any of this. I have somebody.
Yeah,
I don't
I get
pretend
it.
that I know how to do any of that stuff. So yeah, so that's happening. And then just because I'm writing a romance thriller,
Oh, fun.
I don't know, got this idea for this
Yeah.
novel, and I'm having a hoot writing it. It's just fun, making up all the characters, all the situations. Of course, some of them have a little intuition. Of course they do. And it's just fun. It takes place in the East Coast on Long Island because it's what I know.
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
fun. And then I am going to be writing another book, and it's going to be called Living with Your Intuition.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yes.
So I haven't started it yet, but I'm similar. As soon as I thought of it, and it was after I had a session with you, Maria,
Okay.
I was like about 2 weeks after that, all of a sudden I get this download again of
Yeah.
all these titles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to have a similar feel, little chapters with information
Mm-hmm.
about living with your intuition and what that looks like and how it feels, and sometimes how it can feel isolating and
Yeah.
how it can feel like you're misunderstood or like you're not really um part of what's going on in the world. I don't know. And my friend group, for example, for me, my friend group has gotten very small
Mm-hmm.
because if I can't really feel authentic with you, then
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I have very little to do with you because I cherish my time
Mm-hmm.
and want to spend it with people who are real with me.
Yeah.
So, and I want to tell people that that's okay.
Vibrational alignment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's okay, and that I have a lot of friends that I speak to on the phone that do not live where I live.
Mm-hmm.
But those calls and those conversations mean more to me than meeting somebody in Starbucks down the block.
Mm-hmm.
So, and and it keeps me going and it keeps me happy. And I think that's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I think it's the bottom line. It's about doing what brings the highest level of joy and excitement into our lives. And I think it's wonderful and exciting that you could, you know, uh, write a book about trusting your intuition. And then in the next moment, you're off on a romantic thriller that I'm sure is going to be funny and charming and witty and everything else. And I think it's just, it shows diversity, and it kind of opens me up to something that I'm going to be talking about in the future on this channel, is that we're hitting these creator states now that are asking us, demanding that we throw away the old way of creating an income, throw away the old way um, of seeing work flow, right? And so what you're doing is you're embodying that essence by saying, well, I'm going to write a book on intuition, and then, well, I just got a download for this book that's going to be a romantic thriller, and all of that while in the process of coming out with my oracle cards and my spiritual coloring book. And it's like, I always say to people, why not? Why not? Right? Like, I had to put the knitting away, well, not knitting, but crocheting. I had to put crocheting away for a while because I was, moving through these timelines, and everything was shifting and realigning, and I'm getting ready to launch my botanicals company. And I'm like, why am I not crocheting? And then the universe is like, oh, you will. And now I'm thinking like, oh, it's going to be incorporated in all offerings. So, this is where we're heading to, as these energies are really moving through us, like amplifying our creator states of being. We're going to feel it on so many levels, this really strong urging to just have our hands in so many different things. And where we were told in the past, and I'm sure you heard this too, oh, it's not good to have your hands in too many cookie jars because, then you become a jack of all trades and a master of none, right? That was the saying. But like, don't we want to master so many different experiences for our
Yeah,
lives, and keep it sweet and delicious and
yeah,
yummy? And
yes,
yeah, instead of feeling old and stagnant and
yes,
like we're not in flow. So I think
yes,
I think you're
yes to all
embodying
of
that.
that.
Yeah, you're embodying that perfectly, and that's exciting because you're showing what's coming next. Like, this is the perfect example of what is coming next.
You
So
know something? I watch you paint, And the beauty of the strokes that you do, and when you look at your art, you can actually, I mean, I can see through the dimensions of what you're painting. And it's because of the passion that you have when you're participating in painting. And when I work with authors and they say to me, but how do I know if my book's going to be okay? How do I know if people are going to like my book?
Mhm.
And this is what I say. When you are writing your book and
Mhm.
you're thinking of what to put on that page, you are already tapping on the reader's shoulder
Mhm.
energetically. You are already calling them all in.
Yep.
And so when that book gets published and it's out on the shelf, you will have already done all the work that you need to do.
Mhm.
And you just get to sit back and watch them buy it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not our job to worry about who likes it, right?
No,
Who's gonna like my art, who's gonna like your book,
right,
just do it because it makes you feel great. It makes
right,
you feel euphoric. It makes you feel excited. And then those that are meant to receive it and embrace it are gonna show up for it. And
right.
that's really the way that we need to be in flow. I mean, that's the only way. So
Like
we
the way my book got published into German was because somebody called me and I called my publisher and asked.
yeah,
I didn't seek it out.
yeah,
It
yeah,
just it just organically just happened. And
yeah.
I'm thrilled,
Mm-hmm.
but it's this again, trusting the fact that you've already put what you need to put in
Yes,
that painting, in that
yes.
book, in that writing. You've already done it. And
Mm-hmm.
now you get to just be authentic to what you already did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that energetic footprint, right? We put it out into the world and whatever it is that we're doing, and that energetic footprint takes the next step and the next step and the next step, and it gets going. It's magical. So when you take your hands off of it and you're not trying to control it or fix it or, make something happen from it, it just it just takes off on its own. So magical. So,
But the thing that I think that you model to me always is this sense of knowingness
oh, thank you.
and the clear sense that if it comes from that knowingness, then it's fine, then it's
Yeah.
right, then
Yeah.
it's even perfect.
Yeah.
And that I got from you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I practice that. That's what I practice. And, and it does its work, right? It takes work to be in the work, to be present and in that conscious state of flow.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah,
So thank you so much, sister. I really enjoyed our
I
conversation
love it.
today, and I know our viewers are going to really feel very inspired and uplifted by you. And if not for not anything else, I really encourage everybody to go out and get Robin's book because
Uh,
um, it's a testament to all of the hard work, the dedication, not just working with me, because if we're going to tell truth here, you've done so much work
I
that
do a lot of work every
yeah,
day.
that our sessions these days over the last I want to say 2 to 3 years are more
Sporadic.
sporadic and scattered because you've got such a great grip on where you are headed and how to navigate your reality to make the universe your oyster. So that's really what I want people to take away. And the purpose of doing these little chats, these intimate chats with you and hopefully with some others that I'd like to have on, is really for the purpose of inspiring others and helping them see, that when you are doing the work, when you're in there, everything and anything can happen because that, we create the magic. It's up to us. And you are certainly a testament to that with everything that you are doing and being an inspiration of and for and through, you know. So again, I want to thank you
Oh,
for being
thank you.
with me today and co-creating here. And we look forward to more great things to come from you. So
Thank
that's going to
you.
be exciting to watch. Yeah.
Always a pleasure, Maria.
Yeah.
Always a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Thank you. So, to those of you watching, thank you so much for joining us here today. You know, I love you so very much, and I am so deeply appreciative for all of your support in joining myself and my guest Robin today. And I wish you a wonderful whatever it is that you're doing. We send you our love. Bye bye. Thank you.